Welcome to In the Know with Neo, and thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Joshua Moore, and for those who aren't aware, Neo is a student-led social justice initiative that amplifies the voices of underrepresented small business owners within the Cincinnati community, and we're excited to share this week's episode with you. Greetings to those tuning into In the Know with Neo. I'm your host, Joshua Moore, and this week we have a very, very, very special episode as I have the grace of speaking with Aftab Pureval. As I'm sure you're all aware, Aftab holds a very respected and honorable title as the mayor of Cincinnati, but achieving a feat of this measure doesn't come easy without many trials, tribulations, and surprises. So I'm excited to dig deeper within the conversation today and learn how Mayor Aftab has used his past experiences to make decisions in the present moment, which then shape the future for not only Cincinnatians, but those around the world. But first, Mayor, it's Friday. The sun is not out, but hopefully it will come out. And I'm wondering, how has your week been and any exciting plans for the weekend?
Well, first of all, Joshua, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. As you know, I'm a UC grad, so love anytime I can engage with the university. And I also live in Clifton, so I live very close to the university as well. My plan for tonight, I've got a couple of events in the community. But tomorrow, I've got two young kids. I've got a 3-year-old named Bodhi and an 11-month-old named Rami. Nice. And one of my friends told me that there's a unicorn party downtown this weekend. So I'm going to take my kids there and let them go wild.
Cool. There's always something fun going on in Cincinnati.
That's right.
So
that's right.
It always gives you something to do. So to give a brief background of how this all came about, In the Know with Neo started just as an idea last semester. This is an idea last semester with the hopes of building Neo's awareness and brand through storytelling, displaying the importance of data analytics in business, and the challenges faced by minority businesses, with our overarching goal as curating Neo as a familiar face within the community. And Mayor Aftab, from your work of the past to the current strides in office as mayor, we're elated to speak with you, to speak with an individual that holds the general welfare of the people of Cincinnati to such a high regard. So let's not waste any time since we do have a hard deadline. The first question I have for you is a simple one. We'll see. Who is Mayor Aftab to you? Kind of like an elevator pitch.
Yeah.
And can you brief us shortly of how you landed as the mayor of Cincinnati?
Yeah, I'll start with the second question. It was a bit of a circuitous route. I'm the son of a refugee. My mom's from Tibet. My father's from India. They immigrated to Ohio in 1980. And, I had kind of a standard Ohio upbringing. When I was younger, and look, immigrant parents are kind of known for being super hardworking because my parents are no exception because they didn't know anyone in this country, they didn't have any money, so they really had to work hard, and the result of that was not necessarily having as much free time to spend with my brother and I, but I remember spending every evening with my dad watching the nightly news. It was kind of his downtime to relax and rest. It was my time to just kind of sit with him and watch current events. I didn't really understand what was going on, but it was kind of time for me to chill with my dad. And that paired with my mom being a refugee and how, the status of government really disrupted her life in a profound way. Despite their real pressure for me to become a doctor, yes. They kind of unknowingly put me on this path of politics and public service. Wow. But it really wasn't until, and so I was a lawyer for a while because while I had a passion for politics, I never thought a brown guy named Aftab could ever get elected, particularly not in Ohio. Mm-hmm. Let's be honest. But it was really President Obama who inspired me that if I had a commitment to public service, that no matter what my name was or what I looked like, I could achieve that. And so, I really credit President Obama for inspiring me to do it. I'm certainly part of his legacy, and there's no doubt that President Obama is our first black president. But when I see him, I really see him as our first president with an ethnic name, with a foreign name, and how he was able to overcome the misconceptions that people might have about him or where he was from. That gave me the confidence to do it too. So I'm really proud of the work that we've done in City Hall, and I credit a lot of it to President Obama.
That's amazing. It reminded me, I have a poster in my room of President Obama during his campaign, and the word under is hope.
Yeah.
And that's just amazing that his campaign and the feats that he conquered just gave hope to all people into your story. And that's why I love doing these conversations. You get to see what's behind the door as to the reasons why an individual made the choices they made.
Yeah, and for the first question, who am I? That's a hard question to answer.
So many titles.
But in a very literal sense, I'm the mayor of our city, which I'm incredibly proud of, and I'm father to 2 small kids and also a husband, and so it's not lost on me that right now I'm doing the 2 most important things that I will ever do, being mayor of our city and being father to 2 small children. And that is a daily challenge of how to balance those 2 things and how to succeed in both arenas. And some days I do it well, and some days I don't. But that's what I'm always striving to do.
And you forgot one thing: looking good while you're doing it. So we got moving on to the next question, Mayor Aftab. As all that we do here in NEO is surrounding and focused on minority businesses, primarily in the Cincinnati area. And already in your term, you have displayed genuine intentionality in your efforts to support these businesses through the One Cincinnati Economic Recovery Plan, which states, quote, investing in small businesses to get them up and running again, end quote. But what stands out to me is that your support isn't only through legislation and regulation, but through genuine strides to create fellowship, community, and relationship building. So with this, how important is it in your role to remain dedicated to both? And how do they work together to reach those various goals that are set forth?
Yeah, it's critically important. The pandemic, which we're still in, but hopefully on the tail end of, was profoundly and disproportionately negative for specifically our Black businesses. They were more likely to shutter, less likely to get access to federal aid and local aid, and so it was already a challenging context to be a Black owner of a small business because of systemic racism and so many other challenges, lack of access to capital. But the pandemic really made it even harder. And so when we came into office in 2021, we really wanted to prioritize economic growth, but specifically amongst our Black owners. And the good news is we have these incredible entrepreneurs in our community, whether it's fashion or tech or childcare or restaurants. The Black creative and entrepreneurship class in Cincinnati is incredibly talented. And so our approach to this is getting money into the hands of people who need it most. So we've partnered with the Urban League for the Lincoln and Gilbert Fund, which puts money into the hands of Black owners. We've also partnered with Represent, which is an organization that tries to sustain and build Black-owned businesses in Over the Rhine to make sure that they succeed. But in addition to just the legislation and the money, which is critically important, we've also tried to embody and lift up as much as possible the Black-owned businesses in town. And by that, I mean, last year when we went to the Super Bowl, maybe 2 seasons ago now, I was very intentional about wearing, Originalities apparel, which is a Black female-owned business in Walnut Hills, Black-owned, of course, wearing their apparel, to not just talk about it, but to really show it off and use unique opportunities and platforms that I have to show off, the incredible talent that we have in the city.
Yeah, I think that's one of the main things that pointed out to me just during your tenure already is you were on campus at UC. You're with the different local businesses, small or large. And it just shows that you not only have like a very significant title, but you truly care about the people that you're serving.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yes, always. So the next thing I had while I was doing research, I saw in the election year you ran, there were many firsts, such as, hopefully I don't get any of the names wrong, Ed Gainey, mayor of Pittsburgh, first Black mayor, Abdul Hamid, the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, first Arab American and Muslim mayor, Winsome Sears, the first woman mayor or governor of Virginia, and Michelle Wu was the first Asian American woman and person of color to be the mayor of Boston. And with you being Cincinnati's first Asian American mayor, often much emphasis is placed on the first, and it's a great feat, but I'm interested, what do you see as the path forward to ensure more underrepresented faces have not only the ability, but also the belief that they too can achieve similar feats, which we kind of hit on earlier with
Yeah,
that.
it's something that I'm incredibly proud of, being a first. Justice Jackson, during her Supreme Court confirmation hearings before the Senate, really said it kind of perfectly, but there's a bittersweetness to it. She said, when you're first, you're expected to be perfect. When you are the first one through the door, you can't have any faults. But it's bittersweet because, of course, we're all human and we all have faults, right? And
100%.
so in many ways, it's unfair for that burden to be so high for first. And I'm not just talking about Supreme Court justices or mayors. I talk to a lot of students who are maybe the first to go to college in their family or the first to open a small business. And the pressure that they feel can really be debilitating and can really make them fearful of achieving their dream. And so I'm hoping that our administration, much in the same way that President Obama paved the way for me, can pave the way and lift up other leaders of diverse backgrounds. Because what is very true is that Cincinnati is a diverse city. We're 44% Black. We have a growing Asian and Latinx population. And hopefully we will no longer have firsts, but it'll be more the norm and more boring, frankly, to see underrepresented people take on leadership roles.
That's a great point. And Michelle Wu, in one of her addresses as she became the mayor of Boston, she quoted, "The first is only relevant if there's a second, third, fourth, and then the door is wide open for everyone." So
that's absolutely right.
That was beaconed in your response as well. I also found in an interview with David Aldridge, which is the opinion editor of the Cincinnati Enquirer, in response to the question, what is it that made you run? You stated several of the wrongs within Cincinnati, such as like corruption of the city hall, overall economic downturn, that you sought to seek and uproot. But I wanted to focus on the second part of your response, which you stated, "I'm optimistic about the future of Cincinnati and the future of our region because Cincinnati rises exactly when the deck is stacked against us." And then you went on to say, "But when we grow, we have to make sure that the growth and that the success is enjoyed by all 52 of our neighborhoods." And this brings me to the question I ask on each and every episode of In the Know with Neo. But in your eyes and perspective, what makes the city of Cincinnati, especially the minority community, so special to you and many others? And I got to add this in. I like Cincinnati more than Columbus.
Well, of course. Cincinnati is such a special place because it's a city of dreamers, but also doers. People who don't allow the status quo to hold them back from pursuing their dreams. And as we started the conversation, we have such a strong cultural and artistic community here in our city. We just had Blink late last year, one of the largest visual arts, public arts festivals in the entire world, bringing artists from all corners of the globe. We have, some incredible cultural institutions like the Contemporary Arts Center that was designed by Zaha Hadid, one of the most well-known Iraqi architects in the world. I mean, the culture that we have here is extraordinary, particularly given our small size. Yeah. And so what I love about Cincinnati is that we are small enough to be nimble and agile and flexible and evolve quickly, but we're big enough to have an outsized impact. So if we test something out in Cincinnati and it's successful, we can then spread that to the rest of the world. And we've done that on several occasions. And being on the cutting edge like that, being a place that leans into innovation is really, really special. It's my job to cultivate that and to grow it as much as I can.
Yeah, and while you were responding, one thing popped into my mind is that as you mentioned, all the different areas, the entrepreneurial area, the innovation, the nonprofit, the local minority businesses, through the things you do, all the aspects and all the pieces coming together as one, even if you're focused on one more than the other. So I think that's cool how all the pieces connect.
Yeah.
And as I was looking at your profile on the website, specifically under the Meet the Mayor tab, it states one of the top priorities of your administration is to create and sustain equitable economic growth for all Cincinnatians, with NEO's mission focused on attempting to close the racial wealth gap through targeted economic empowerment. There is much overlap there. So I'm curious, what do you see as the definition or meaning of equitable economic growth?
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to if we are growing, right, that growth cannot just be within a select few. That growth must be celebrated and benefit everybody. And so the good news is Cincinnati is growing, but some neighborhoods are growing faster than others. Some neighborhoods are seeing more investment than others. And so we still are in this situation where the successes we've had are inequitable. We are only as strong as the weakest of us, right? Not the weakest because it's necessarily anything that is their fault, but because systems have been designed to make sure that they're in a position of weakness. And so when we talk about impact in this building, we're really talking about how have we moved the needle for communities who are impoverished, and what are the specific things that we're trying to do in order to create impact. And for me, it's specifically around asset ownership, Black ownership of homes, businesses, neighborhoods, but also Black ownership of savings accounts and retirement accounts, because owning a business or owning a home is not necessarily right for everyone, but everyone needs that financial freedom in order to make those choices for themselves. And so that's the lens by which we look at economic growth.
Yeah, that's super good, because that's gonna be such a ambiguous term if you don't know the underlying factors of it. And you explained it in such a layman's term, which would be easily conceptualized. And then the next question I have, again, on the Meet the Mayor page, which I was doing my research on, it states under the Cincinnati Environmental Plan that Mayor Aftab can continue the progress we've already made and not be just a climate change haven, but a climate change role model for cities around the world, which kind of goes along with being the first. With much of what has been done and accomplished during your tenure as mayor and what remains unfinished, has shown you seek to be a role model in all areas. For those listening, with this, I'm wondering, how critical is it, especially in your position as mayor, in seeking to be a role model rather than just another passenger on the bus?
It's incredibly important.
It's the whole title.
You know, what I love about my job, and I do love my job, is being mayor is a true test of leadership, because nothing is not your fault, right? Even if it's actually not your fault, if you have no responsibility over it. The mayor cannot say, that's not my job, right? And so it's incumbent upon me to step into the void and take hard positions on hard issues. When an issue lands on my desk, I can't spin it, I can't obfuscate, I have to speak clearly and take a clear position. In many ways, I view the mayor as the moral voice of the city. When something bad happens, people look to the mayor to understand how to react to it. When a tragedy happens, people look to the mayor to understand how to feel about it. And that is an incredible responsibility, but also an incredible burden to be able to make very clear decisions, communicate incredibly clearly, and not shy away from the hard issues. Now that also means it's a hard job, but I'm the only person in our government who's not just worried about 4 years or 8 years when my term is over, but the next 100 years. What are the decisions we're making right now that will ensure that Cincinnati is continuing to thrive and grow for your children, right? And that's a long time horizon that gets me excited about what we're doing in the short term.
That's so great. But it's so easy in the moment and in the present moment to take that stance of short-term growth, but having that goal of long-term growth just shows that your perspective is really for the overarching Cincinnati time and community, which is so amazing. And with our services at NEO being built upon enabling our clients to make more informed and data-driven decisions through making the powerful tools of data analytics more accessible, I've noticed much of your work involves analytics and statistical backing. But what stands out to me personally is that you understand behind each statistic is a human being, whether a child, a parent, or a grandparent. So I'm wondering, what experiences and learnings have allowed you to make the best of both worlds, whether it's your experience in education or just overall career path journey?
Yeah, it's a great question. Governments are really slow to innovate because you have to. Part of what is inherent in innovation is failure, right? You fail over and over again, and every time you fail, you learn something to help the iterative learning process, right? In government, failure is not an option, right? So if if I were to tell, my city council, I'm not sure if this is going to work, but we're going to try it, and then we're going to learn from it, and we'll do it again. That's not necessarily confidence inspiring, right? And so there is kind of a mentality shift away from being super risk averse and against innovation. We're trying to change the culture here to allow people to fail, to allow them the space to fail and learn and try it again. And in order to do that, we have to have a robust data analytics operation to inform us about where we're falling short, where we need to devote the few resources that we have, and be able to explain our work to the community, right? So this is true for small and big things. So why does this intersection get a speed bump, but that intersection doesn't, right? We have to be able to say it's not because this neighborhood is rich or has, influential people. It's because our data shows that there's more pedestrian wrecks right here on this corner than on that corner, right? And so being able to use data to cut through some of the misperceptions or just things that are actually not true is incredibly powerful. But it also makes sure that we're devoting our resources effectively and equitably.
Yeah, that's so great. And it reminded me of my love-hate relationship with analytics. It helps you get very granular, which is then the difficult thing of being able to stay consistent and staying focused on the granularity which you're looking for.
Yeah.
And as we round this up, I have one last question and then our speed round.
Great.
So Mayor Aftab, with being a student organization, much of our audience is made up of students, both in college and even high school. I found while researching that you were the student body president during your undergraduate degree at OSU. So I'm curious, what value, growth, and memories were gained during this time? And what would you say to students debating on whether or not to be involved on campus?
Oh, I loved being involved on campus. I went to UC for law school, but Ohio State for undergrad. And it's probably not great for me to say this, particularly to students, but I learned so much more outside of the classroom than inside the classroom. I was involved in student government. I was involved in our dance marathon that raised money for Children's Hospital. I was even an RA, probably the worst year of my life, but I'm still friends with some of the residents that I was with. I think getting involved in student organizations helps you grow as a professional 100%. Because it teaches you how to manage. It teaches you how to put on events. It teaches you how to communicate clearly, how to be a team member, potentially lead a team. It teaches you how to run a meeting, right? Like what is an effective use of your time rather than just having a meeting that goes off the rails. Those are all soft skills that no matter what profession you choose, you will be able to leverage and use. And there are things that I still use today that I learned while I was student body president at Ohio State.
That's so good. That's so good. Yeah. Throughout my time at UC, just my involvement within the organizations has been one of the most valuable and cherishable moments. So with that, getting into the speed round.
Great.
Another again in my research I uncovered about running for Clerk of Courts in 2016. You ran ads with a stuffed duck, which was quacking your name, honoring the nostalgic Aflac insurance commercials.
That's right.
So I'm just curious, very briefly, how did this come about? Because it's so great.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I like to think that I have a good sense of humor, and self-deprecating humor always works. But it was very intentional because while I'm very proud of my name, particularly as we talked about it earlier, my name is not a common name in Cincinnati, and so it is difficult for people who have unique or ethnic names to run and win, because oftentimes when the only thing people will see about a local candidate is their name on the ballot, and if you can't pronounce the name, you're probably less likely to vote for them. And so I thought, instead of changing my name or shying away from my name, let's really try to take a perceived weakness and make it a strength. And my entire life, people have quacked at me because they thought it was funny to call me Aflac, which, I have fun with. So we just kind of ran with that. So every time I said my name in our TV commercial, a big yellow duck puppet would pop up and repeat it in the Aflac voice. So it was incredibly memorable and ultimately really successful.
Cool. I know we have 1 minute, so we can go really quick.
Yeah.
If you had to choose one and the other is gone forever, would you pick the Stripes Don't Come Easy bomber or the hoodie?
Stripes Don't Come Easy bomber.
Okay.
Absolutely.
It's so dope. So dope. Buckeyes or Bearcats?
I'm going to go I'm gonna
You can
go
go in the middle.
I'm gonna go the team that wears red is my
Sweet.
favorite.
That's a great answer. Skyline or Gold Star?
Skyline.
Saw on your IG that you completed the Mojo Sprint Triathlon. So I want you to rank these in order from favorite to least favorite. Swim, bike, run.
My favorite is swim. My least favorite is run, and I'm fine with the bike.
Okay. Last one. You've met some really cool people over the years, so I'm interested. What was the one person you met that was unforgettable? John Legend, Obama, Kamala Harris, or Aaron Sorkin?
I think meeting Obama was
Yeah, you
obviously
can't beat
incredible,
that.
but we've talked about President Obama a lot. So John Legend, that was incredible. He came down in 2018 to campaign for a lot of us candidates, and he's an Ohio guy. He grew up in Springfield, Ohio, which is just a little bit north of where I grew up, and we're about the same age. So it was really cool kind of connecting with him on that. We've taken different paths though.
Sweet. Well, Mayor Aftab, I would have never thought I've been sitting across from the mayor of Cincinnati. But as your journey has shown, all things are possible with determination, fellowship, and perseverance. So I want to say a huge thank you from all of those at NEO Initiative to you and your team for making this possible. And we're beyond excited to continue following along as your journey of the mayor of this great city.
Thank you, Joshua, for having me. I really appreciate it.
And that's In the Know with NEO. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you're interested in learning more about NEO's mission and vision, follow us on social media at NEO Initiative or visit our website at neocincy.com.